Hello and welcome to another episode of The Road Less Taken, the web series from Nexus Consulting, where we have conversations with people who've made unconventional career choices. As you may know, this is part of our sports mini-series where we are talking to three wonderful people, achievers at the highest level from three different sports, capturing their experiences both as players, as coaches, as parts of the sports ecosystem, and kind of trying to make sense of where Indian sport is heading in a way. Today, I have the pleasure of chatting with someone whom I've known for quite some time and who I really admire and look up to for the impact that he's created through his acumen, through his perseverance, through his hard work. He's been a national level coach of the Indian team. And today he is the chief coach at the Padukah Badminton Academy and the Padukah Dravid Center for Sporting Excellence in Bangalore. Please welcome as our guest for today's episode of TRLT, Vimal Kumar. Hi Vimal, welcome to The Road Less Taken. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi Venky. I'm really happy to be with you all, and good. Hope everything is opened up and I think we can get back to our normal life, hopefully.
I know. Fantastic. And
really missing life.
I know, and it's very good to see you doing this interview from the Padukah Dravid Center for Sporting Excellence, which is a good indication that things have actually opened up and the students are back on court. But I'm going to begin by, I will come, of course, and we'll talk. I want to talk extensively about CSE. But before we do that, I want to begin by asking you for a very personal anecdote on what is your first memory of holding a badminton racket and playing the game.
I think, that was a long time back, maybe in the late 60s. Mm-hmm. I think my father was very keen on the sport, and he was a big fan of Nandu Nadekar. Nandu Nadekar was one of the great Indian, one of the legends of Indian badminton. He was in the 50s. He was one of the top badminton players in the world, and so my father watched him play the National Badminton Championships in Trivandrum, and so he was so inspired. And then what he did is, when he came back along with his friends, he put up an outdoor badminton court in front of the house, with a floodlit, and of course at that time we weren't even born, but he started playing, and but it continued for some time, and then we were 4 or 5 years, we also started playing with him, outdoor badminton, and that's how those days. I think in South India, I think ball badminton was more popular than shuttle badminton. So those days they used to say badminton, they used to put shuttle, and then they used to put other badminton, they used to put in bracket ball. So it was ball badminton and shuttle badminton. So we all used ball badminton rackets to play. So Narayana wooden rackets. So that was a very popular brand for ball badminton, and so we used the same rackets, and my father had a couple of them, and so myself and my elder brother, we started playing with that, and that's how I got into the sport. And so it is basically outdoor badminton and ball badminton racket.
Right. But was there even formal coaching available then, or were you just a self-taught player completely?
Yeah, I think it was, we were all maybe just self-taught. Initially, there weren't anybody. Luckily, because that's a stage where lots of them pick up wrong grips and such things. Once you pick up, because badminton is very technical, so once you pick up a wrong grip, then it is very tough to correct it. So luckily, maybe I was holding the racket right, and then your hitting action, you have to reach up to the shuttle and hit. And so those things, somehow it just came to me and my elder brother naturally. And so we were hitting the shuttle properly. At that time, of course, nobody told us anything. But subsequently, after 2-3 years, my father took us to a tournament at the YMCA in Trivandrum. It's an outdoor tournament, and that's how I started playing. I was just 8 years then, and just started playing. And so that tournament, everybody really appreciated the way I was. So I also got very inspired. It was an outdoor badminton. A lot of students were watching it, and so they were cheering for me. And
Nice.
even though I lost the first round game, but it was very good. And then the sports council, there was a coach there, and Mr. Bal Gopal, and he was the state coach, and he was a former state champion. Then I attended his summer camp. Okay. Then could learn the other fundamentals. So that's how I started playing competitive badminton.
And what started that day in YMCA in Trivandrum went on for a long and very, very, I would say, glorious period. Tell us about some of the really high moments you had when representing India at the highest level in badminton.
Maybe, yes. I got, first time I was selected to play for India was in 1979. I was a junior. I was the #1 junior player in the country. And then I got an opportunity to play with the touring Indonesians team. And
they would have been the strongest team in the world at that time, right?
Yeah, Indonesia was the leading nation. Indonesia and Malaysia were dominating world badminton. Then China wasn't into the sport at that time. China, there was a separate, another association was there. So China was part of that association, China and Pakistan. But all the other countries were with the International Badminton Federation. Then these two merged in 1981, and then China started playing into the normal, along with the other countries. Yeah, they got back into the sport. And but in 79, it was Indonesia definitely was the best nation, and so I could get to play that. And prior to that, also, I traveled to Bangalore and from Kerala, and I could practice with Prakash. So that was the year, he won the Prudential Masters, the first Open. Badminton became open. It became a professional sport, and they introduced licensed players. That means, as a badminton player, you can earn prize money.
Right.
So till then it wasn't possible. And so the only few Europeans were licensed players, and Prakash also got his license status. Then he moved to Denmark. But prior to that, I got an opportunity to practice with him there in Bangalore, and that's so 79 when we played the Indonesians and the touring Indonesians, and I was quite happy I could play well. And there was one player from Indonesia, Luis Pongo. He was also a big upcoming star of Indonesian badminton, and so I could extend him to 3 games. I could get a game of him, and so that's how I got noticed more by Badminton Association of India. And then I started playing international badminton. Also in 79, I got an opportunity to go to England. And so I could play in some of the local tournaments there. That was again the state government, the Kerala state government sponsored my trip, and they, along with 2 other youngsters, we were sent to England to play. And we were under the English coach, Ian Palmer. And we trained there for a month. So I did win some local tournaments in the process there. And so one of the Indian who was living in England at that time, he later went on to become a very renowned coach, Mr. Tom John. So he noticed me, and he invited me to come to London and stay there permanently. And so those days, being a Commonwealth country, you didn't need a visa to go to England. So it was very open. And but when I came back, my parents wanted me to finish my studies, and they said, you have to take a minimum graduation. And so then I waited, and I sacrificed then my medical seat, and then I did my BCom and completed that, and then moved to England. So that 79 opportunity was a big thing for me. And then, of course, officially I started playing for the country from Thomas Cup. I played the 1981 Thomas Cup and such things. And then again, maybe in 1986 Commonwealth Games, I was selected, but we had issues with South Africa.
Yeah.
So we were about to leave, and then the team boycotted. By then, I was living my base was England, and so I was very disappointed. We could have gone to Glasgow. The Commonwealth Games was in Glasgow, and so that was an opportunity. But then subsequently, in 1990, again, I played the Commonwealth Games, where I lost in the quarterfinals. So that was, then maybe before that, in '86, played the Asian Games, and then 92 Barcelona Olympic Games, and by then I retired and joined Prakash, and we started the Prakash Padukah Badminton Academy.
Yeah, that's a very interesting journey. I want to ask you about that, but just before that, I mean, you were mentioning about how your parents kind of made sure you completed your education and so on. But what was your parents and your general family's thinking when you said that you were going to make a professional career in a sport like badminton? That would not have been something common in those days at all, right?
Yes. Maybe in the late 70s, early 80s, and even now, of course, the middle class Indians, priority is still academics. And so in the late 70s, along with me, there were many other good players playing in the circuit, but they all went and took up, medicine, or they pursued medicine or engineering. And so when I sacrificed my medical seat, my mother, she was a teacher, and so she was a little upset. My father was so he allowed me to pursue my passion, and so he said, you can go ahead. Of course, there were money constraints and such things, but there wasn't as such. Even my relatives, because everybody, they would advise you to pursue academics. The first question they would ask, I still remember, was, what will happen if you get injured? See, as a sports person, those days, that was the first thing they would ask. If you break your leg, you cannot play the sport, and then what would you do?
Fair enough. Yeah.
If you don't have the basic education, how would you make a living?
Yeah.
But when you're young, you don't think of all these things, and so my frame of mind that then was like that. I just wanted to play badminton, and of course by then Prakash was very big in world badminton, and he was the best player at the world stage. So as youngsters, we all wanted to be like Prakash. So I said, I just refused to go take up pursue my medicine, and then.
Right.
So that was I have absolutely no regrets, but I never thought about the consequences, and but I just did it, and but of course you can't compare it now with those times, and because those times now the opportunities are a lot better.
Right.
The children, they are getting, you can pursue what you want, and so that is something available now. Yeah. But those days, it was very rigid. Our system was very rigid. You have to be out of school by 15. Then you have to be a graduate by 20.
Yeah.
22 post-graduation, and then by 25, if you don't find a good job and settle down in life, then they say you're finished. So that sort of a mentality was there, but things have changed, and
yeah. So tell us about this wonderful partnership that you've had with Mr. Prakash Padukone, and how did the thought of the academy come to you both, and what has the journey of the academy been? I think 20 years plus.
25 years.
25 years, in fact, yeah. So 25 years of the academy. Tell us what has been the philosophy of the academy? How did it all start? What have been the goals?
No, actually, when I moved back to India in '92, and of course in '87 itself, I kept 1987 itself, when I come down to Bangalore to practice here from England, I decided that I will stay back in Bangalore. Once I finish so I was very clear in my mind, and because I thought I could be associated with Prakash, practice with him, and but later when I finished my playing career, there was one more person, Vivek Kumar. He came in. Vivek was also playing in Malleshwaram, and he was the Karnataka's one of the top players of Karnataka. And so in the early 90s, we discussed, myself and Vivek, we discussed about starting a small badminton academy. And so Vivek had maybe a better vision than me. He was looking for a land and build up a badminton court and such things he advised. So I didn't have any money or anything to do such things. And so we thought we could hire a coach somewhere and then start coaching. And so we made a small proposal and such things, and we thought we could consult Prakash and see what he says. And so we just went to him for his advice. And so then Prakash was the chairman of the Karnataka Sports Council then.
Right.
He also retired. He retired in 1989, and he was part of that process. And so when we asked him, he said, I also have these plans, and I would also like to join.
Oh,
so
great.
so we were very, very happy, and then we didn't have any issues. We straight away started because Prakash's name, and so Prakash Padukah Badminton Academy we started, and then we made a project report, and we got an opportunity to meet Rajiv Chandrasekhar, BPL. Then BPL was one of the leading home appliances company. They were doing very well at that time in all over India. They had the television sets and such things. The home appliances were very good. So, and they had big budgets, and so they said they will support us, and so that's how we started the Prakash Padukah Badminton Academy. And maybe we were one of the first private academy to set up anywhere, maybe at the world stage. No one, but badminton wasn't a big professional sport, and mainly, everywhere the system was such. The associations, the national training program, that was the only way the players could get better. And but India, we were big country, everything was scattered, and Badminton Association of India also didn't have a place of its own, and so it was very difficult to have a national center, and players were using then basically Sports Authority of India centers to play badminton, national camps and such things. So that was the situation then in the country. And so when we started the academy with Prakash's name, the top players, our priority then was to ensure that the top players could get to play international badminton. Then our experience at the world stage, we could help them, and so they can play well at the international stage. So that was with that intention we started the academy. We never thought much about the grassroots badminton and such things. So it was only for elite group of players. So then the top players, then along with some very young ones like Aparna Popat and Nikhil Kanetkar, some of these youngsters joined us, and along with then Gopi Chand. Gopi was in the national champion even then, so he joined us. Then Dipango Bhattacharya joined. He was the number one player in the country. Manjusha, Pawan Gatkar, all those big names of the country, they came down to Bangalore, and when we started the academy, and so that's how we started. And then slowly, because once we were able to give them the opportunity to play on a regular basis with better quality shuttlecocks and such things, slowly, they could get better. But earlier, the players could get only when there was a national camp, they could get opportunity to use good shuttles and play. And so when we started that, it helped. We could set the ball rolling. And so now we are in a much better stage. Where badminton is really doing well, and so we are very happy. To a certain extent, we could contribute towards that.
Right. Well, what have you seen change in the last 25 years, Vimal? Being part of this coaching setup, one of India's top badminton academies, and you moved from elite to grassroots, and today I know you predominantly focus on trying to identify the next champions, and so on. But what have you seen change in the last 25 years?
The last maybe 20, like I mentioned to you, the middle class have become more affluent now. So they are able to, give opportunity to their children. They said, you can pursue a sport, take sport seriously. So that's sort of an opportunity the parents are providing now to the youngsters. So if you have the talent, if you have the potential, then the sponsors and such thing, people are coming forward to support an athlete.
Right.
Those sort of things have come up, and in the last 25 years, I can clearly see that. So many opportunities have got better, and of course, then many players have come up in the sport. More private academies have come up. So that is a big change. Many of the former internationals are working in different parts of the country. They have, along with the maybe Sports Authority of India coaches, they're all getting together and more proactive. Of course, many centers have come up for the sport. So that is all contributing definitely towards, and the other thing I've noticed in the last 25, better training methods.
Right.
Because we have good trainers now who understands the biomechanics and such thing, the sport, and specialized badminton training programs, along with good physios. So these are all things that has come up. The last 10, 15 years. Things have really changed for the sport, and so that is really helping the younger lot. And then I can tell you one more important thing was the scoring pattern changed.
Yes, of course. Yeah. That is a big shift, right?
Yeah, big shift in 2006.
Yeah.
So that is to a certain extent really helped India to the second line of badminton. India, Thailand, Japan. We were all considered the next line because the top 5 nations were China, Indonesia, Korea, Malaysia. And Denmark. So these were the top 5 then. But these countries, the scoring format changing helped these countries to bridge the gap. So it has become earlier. You could get a point only when you served.
Right.
And so the game could go on for ages, and it can be 2-all or 5-all, and you go and have a coffee and come back. Still, it can be 5-all. So it was like that, and more endurance based, and so these things clearly changed when the scoring format. We adopted the table tennis scoring format.
Yeah.
So that was something. So that was initially we didn't know how it would go because World Federation experimented with 5 points and 7 point format. All that wasn't working very well, and but this 21 format they adopted. It really took on well, and that was maybe to a certain extent really transformed the sport. And many of these nations could bridge the gap at the big stage, and. So these are the changes, I can see now in the sport.
Do you think the quality of the coaches itself has gone up substantively? We have much better coaches now.
Yes. Definitely. And see earlier, basically Sports Authority of India also, they have a good curriculum, but the people who went into do coaching was basically they were looking for a job. So they took it up that way, but that has changed.
Yeah.
Now, specialized programs are there, and so that way, definitely, and there are more others organizations like Olympic Gold Quest.
Yeah.
They do a lot of coaching courses, and specifically for badminton shooters and others, they do that. That is helping. Then, of course, the Sports Authority of India's regular coaching programs are there. That is little long duration, for 10 months, you have to be at a center. But many people are adopting to this. And along with BWF as World Badminton Federation also is supplementing these towards these programs. And, so they are getting involved. And so the level of coaching staff, that has gone a lot better, especially at the basic level, intermediate level, and then of course you go on to the next stage.
Yeah.
So that is getting better, but still, yes, we need a lot more to do in that area.
Right. Tell us very quickly about the Padukah Dravid Center for Sporting Excellence in Bangalore, closer to the Bangalore airport. Fabulous facility. I've been there, so I can tell everybody watching the show that it's world class. You have to be there to believe it. But can you tell us a little bit about it and what's the vision behind it?
So this is again, we're all thankful to Vivek, the co-founder of our academy. Vivek, like I told you, 25 years back when we were to start the academy, he had that vision. He was looking for a badminton court and such thing, identify a plot, and we said we should have our place of our own and such things. But then it didn't take off. Prakash Padukah Badminton Academy always functioned from the premises for either Canara Union in Malleshwaram. First couple of years we were there. We had 3 courts there. Then when Karnataka Badminton Association built its stadium, we moved there. We were there for nearly 20 years. And so that was a big help. And then subsequently, then Vivek, he bought up this 15 acres outskirts of Bangalore in Yelahanka. He bought this land next, and then he built this. And he had this vision. He built a good facility for cricket, badminton, swimming, tennis, football, and squash. And so that is something fantastic. And on 15 acres, and we have 16 badminton courts and a sports science lab. Then later, Abhinav Bindra came in. He put in his facility, the sports science lab, is a target Olympic program, so the podium program, so they have so that they set up their unit in the premises, and so that is also helping the athletes. So we are really thankful to Vivek, and of course then what Vivek did was he dedicated that to the Prakash and the facility to Prakash and Rahul Dravid, the 2 of our icons, and so that way, it is really what he did is for Indian sport is something very special.
Amazing.
And I'm sure over the years, I'm sure this facility will benefit many athletes, and I'm sure we will be able to get world-class youngsters from this place.
Definitely. What general advice would you give today? You've been both a professional sportsman for all your life, and then you've dedicated your life to sports coaching. What advice would you give to youngsters as well as their parents who may be contemplating careers in the world of sport?
So it's a tough journey, no doubt. But that initial years, that is where the parents and even the coaches, they get bogged down. They try to go too scientific. They when at 10, 11 years itself, they think about psychology and they think about a diet plan, and absolutely they go into, because on social media, whatever they come across, they put all these things into the kid's head and try to do too much. That is not required. Because if there is a talent, if he's getting a right opportunity, that is the key. In a place where there should be an infrastructure to pursue something to their liking, and once that is given, that is good enough. And give them good homemade food. So the parents should just concentrate on such things, and then automatically, they will get better. Then you come into other specialized category. And so these are things the parents should, if you don't have a sports background, you should look at these things and not get too much into it and too hyper. So that would be my advice, to the parents.
That's very, very valuable advice, I think. And on that note, thank you so much, Vimal Kumar. Thank you for sharing your time, your wonderful thoughts and perspectives. And more power to you and the Padukah Academy for producing new champions.
Thanks, Venky. Thanks for having me.
Hope you enjoyed that episode with Vimal Kumar. Vimal spoke about how badminton was in the 60s and 70s when he started playing, to him going to England, representing India at the Commonwealth Games and the Olympics, and then subsequently embarking on a wonderful journey with Mr. Prakash Padukone and Vivek Kumar to set up and run the Prakash Padukone Badminton Academy, perhaps the first ever private badminton academy in the world. He had some very interesting things to tell parents of today as well. If that inspired you, excited you, and this is something you enjoy, please go to youtube.com/Nexus Consulting. We are in the third season of TRLT. All prior episodes in full, the 30 to 35 minute full-length durations, as well as short snippets, are available on our YouTube channel. Quiz aficionados can also find videos of several of the quizzes that we've done in the last 12 to 15 months on the channel. Please do write into us. Tell us what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes of TRLT, any specific guests you'd like to see on the show, anyone you'd like to recommend who has a story to tell which is very interesting and away from the beaten path, and we'd love to have them on. So till I meet you again on the next episode of this mini-series around sport in TRLT, this is Venky Srinivasan saying bye-bye. Take very good care of yourself and stay safe.